Does your dating life feel like Groundhog Day? Like, no matter what you do, you keep ending up in the same place? Or like, you're doing all the things but don't feel any closer to finding your person? Today, we're going to get into what to do when you feel stuck in your dating life. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease, whether you've been on dozens of dates or you're just getting started. I believe dating can be fun, yes, even if you feel stuck sometimes. And I know this episode is going to inspire you to tap back into the fun side of dating, even if you feel really stuck right now. As a quick reminder, I truly love hearing from you, your thoughts on the pod, topics you want me to cover, questions you have, and you can reach out to me anytime on Instagram at dating.intentionally. You can drop a comment below if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, or you can use the form in the show notes to submit a longer question anonymously that I answer on the podcast or on YouTube. So thank you. I look forward to hearing from you. And if you've reached out to me already, thank you. I mean, I just love connecting with you and knowing that what I'm putting out there is resonating, is helping you. So keep the messages coming. So today we're talking about the feeling of being stuck in dating, right? Like you feel like you've been doing all the things. Maybe you're in therapy. Maybe you worked with a dating coach. Maybe you've gotten a profile review. You're following dating advice online. You're listening to podcasts like this. You're going out with people. Like you're just doing everything you possibly can, but you don't feel like you have anything to show for it because you're single or whatever. Maybe you think things like, where is my person already? Or is there something wrong with me? Maybe I should just give up, or did I miss my chance? We are going to get into all of that today. I'm very excited to share some mindset tips and some problem solving things we can get into. I think it's important to both validate what you're going through and kind of put things into perspective. And if you're ready and if you want to, I will offer some solutions, things that you can apply to your life right away. So, this is more of like a pick and choose episode, right? You take what works for you, leave the rest. I want to share my experience. So, when it comes to feeling stuck in dating, I would say I felt more stuck when I was in my relationship, my previous relationship, and just trying to do anything I could to feel secure, at peace, and happy, and feel like I was in the right relationship when really I was in the wrong one. There was even a point where, like 5 years in, I thought the answer to this feeling of being stuck was to pull so far back in my very serious long-term relationship with my live-in boyfriend so that it would feel more like a casual relationship. Like, mentally, I was ready to completely pull back, but, like, still be in it. And look, I have a lot of self-compassion for that version of me, but I can't also help but call out that that was delusional thinking. Like, that was not the answer, but I was so frustrated and just feeling stuck that nothing that I was doing after all the therapy and the books and the discussions and just trying was working. And obviously, I left that relationship. When it comes to dating, I would say that I didn't have that experience of feeling like, where is my person? Why aren't they there? Like, what's going on? Because I was only single for a year, right? I was single after breaking up with my ex. I took 3 months off dating. I launched back into dating and I met my husband like 10 months after that. So I can't say I was single long enough to have that really stuck feeling, but I definitely experienced dating ruts in that time where I wasn't meeting people I liked, or I had a string of first dates that went nowhere, or I'd spend weeks on the apps without a match and stuff like that. And it was really frustrating. Also, like as an empathetic person, I understand your pain. I understand what it feels like to be trying all the things and not being where you want to be, and just how frustrating that can be. So, even though I haven't gone through this feeling of being stuck in the context of being single and dating and just not finding my person, I know how it feels. If this is you right now, I really want you to know that you are not alone. There are so many people out there who feel this way about dating right now. And I want to dive in and first address the emotional side of things before we get to the solutions, because I think that's the right way to do things. And I'm going to kind of go through some questions to help maybe shake something loose, right? Hopefully, by listening to this, something will click and that will help you move things forward or maybe see your situation in a different light. So, the first reflection prompt I have for you is, how do you define success in dating? I want to get to the root of this first because how you feel about where you're at in your love life has a lot more to do with expectations, whether that's personal expectations or societal expectations or expectations from your family and friends and stuff like that. Like, how would you feel about your love life right now if the majority of people in the world didn't experience love for the first time until they were in their 70s? Like, imagine if that was the norm. How would you feel, being whatever age you are right now? Maybe you wouldn't feel as like this should have happened already, or why is this taking so long? What you expect of yourself directly affects how you feel about your success and status. You have the power to adjust this and give yourself some breathing room and some space to slow the fuck down and enjoy the process. So, back to our question, how do you define success? If you only define success in dating as you're in a relationship or you're married, then you're setting yourself up to feel bad about being single no matter what. Here are some ways to reframe success. One is that you're paying attention to what you're doing and you know that you're actively putting yourself out there. Success can be like, I am going to events. I am going on dates. I'm doing the thing. That's success. That means you're actually doing it. So many people talk about doing something and never do it, but you are taking action, and that is success, in my opinion. Another version of success is that you're learning about yourself. Dating is kind of a sneaky side door into self development, right? Every dating experience can teach you something, and we'll get more into that later. But what are you learning about yourself? That is also success. If you've picked up information about the way you communicate, what you value, what lights you up when you're talking to someone else, that is success too. Another way to look at it is that you've improved your social skills. If you are dating, you're actively strengthening that muscle of talking to people, listening, connecting, sharing. These are really important skills to have for life. So even if you're not in a relationship, if you've strengthened your social muscles, that is success as well. You are getting better, you're improving, and that's great. And the last way to define success is that you've gotten clear on what you want. Everything that doesn't work out, every time you get to a no with someone, whether you end it or they do, you have more information about what's going to work for you and what won't. And that is a huge marker of success. Whatever it is, maybe these aren't hitting for you. Success is something that you get to define. It doesn't have to be the number of dates, doesn't have to be the number of relationships or how long those relationships last, or if there's a ring on your finger. It could be whatever you want. And yes, of course, you can have your goal or the direction you're trying to go in, but I don't think that reaching that goal is the only way to consider yourself as successful in dating. Here's an example from my life. In my previous business, I had a goal of reaching $1 million in yearly revenue. I never got there, but that doesn't discount the fact that I got pretty close, and that in and of itself is a sign of success. But of course, I put the goalpost at 1 million and I never felt as successful as I could have felt. So, my advice here is just to reflect on how you define success and whether or not it's helping you or hurting you. Okay, here's the second reflection we can go through, and that is about your timeline, because I think feeling stuck also has to do with the fact that you want to find a relationship at a certain, like, you're like, I'm 35, I should have been married by now, or I should have been having kids by now, whatever it is. So let's talk about your timeline. Does your timeline have any wiggle room? What can you let go of? This will help you feel unstuck. It'll also help you take the pressure off. Similar to the success thing, when we have a rigid timeline on love and marriage and family or whatever it is you want, the negative feeling, like feeling stuck or hopeless, they only become amplified. I'm sharing stuff from my personal life just to illustrate this. Like, I'm 32, and I know some of you listening are like, wow, you're a baby. And some of you are like my age or younger. But I've learned that the more you let go of a timeline for your life, the better. And I'm still actively doing this. It's still something I'm doing every single day. Like, I really want to write a book about dating. It is something that is my goal for the year. I want to get a book deal, but we're also thinking about starting a family. And in my head, I'm like, I have to write a book before I have a baby. I don't know why I have this in my head. It's super arbitrary and it's not even true. These things can overlap. It's the same thing with just like starting a family and my work and career. I had this idea in my head of like, I have to get to this certain point with my retirement savings before I can have a kid. Like, it's super arbitrary. And when we view our life timeline in this way, it makes feeling stuck even worse. I think it makes us feel even more stuck than we are because we're setting all these goalposts for ourselves. We're putting all these deadlines on things that are completely arbitrary and sometimes just really not in our control. Like back to the baby thing, even if I wanted to have a baby next year, it's not fully in my control. It could take a long time. Some issue could come up and that would make it take even longer. Like we're just not in control of when we meet our person and if it's going to work out and all those things and when we're going to start a family. It just we have to learn how to let go and that will help us feel better about how things are going. The best we can do is to make decisions based on our current and present situation to get us closer to what we want in the future. But sometimes the universe just has other plans for your life, or things just don't line up the way you expected or wanted. And that sucks. And we can mourn that. But the sooner we learn to relax into the timing, and I need this advice too, and roll with the punches, the happier we can be. So I'm encouraging you, if you feel stuck, to have a little bit of wiggle room in your timeline and take the pressure off. Give yourself more runway to find the person. And don't forget that some people get married in their like late 20s, early 30s, get divorced, and then find their real love in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. It's so arbitrary. And there is no right timeline. But I get it. You know what? You're impatient. You want it to happen. I understand like that it's like, where is he already? Where are they? So I do get it. All right. Our third reflection here, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but is it's more about what we can learn from our recent experiences. So if you're feeling stuck, I want you to reflect on what you've learned from the past few dates you went on, or the last few app conversations you've had, or your last relationship or situationship, whatever you've experienced in your dating life for the last few months, just reflect on it. And, I don't want you to be cynical about it. Like, if your answer to the question of what did I learn is I learned that all men suck or all women suck, that's not nuanced, that's not helpful, and that reaction stops you from taking a deeper look into your actions, how you contribute to the dynamics you're a part of, and what you can do in the future to avoid that or have a different outcome. Like, yes, we can acknowledge that you've been hurt or have gone through hurtful situations, ghosting, people being shitty on dating apps, getting stood up. All of these situations suck, but we can still learn from them. And let's not forget to focus on positives too. Like, even if you've experienced more frustrating things in the last few months than positive experiences, I don't want you to gloss over the positive experiences that you've had. Like maybe you discovered a really fun date idea. Maybe you stumbled across a question or topic that came up on a date that you loved. Maybe you learned something about yourself. Maybe you actually spoke up about something or set a boundary for the first time. And maybe it didn't pan out the way you thought, but you still took a step, you still got out of your comfort zone, and that's positive. I really believe that every interaction you have in your dating life is something that you can learn from, and you get to decide what that lesson is. And I'm asking you, as your dating bestie, to not translate your learnings into negative things about yourself. Like, if you've been rejected a bunch or stood up or something happened, I don't want you to turn that into I'm not dateable. This is not the time to have a pity party and turn rejection into a story about how you're not worth it, because that is not true. It is not true. And I have episodes on rejection we can go back and listen to. But I'm just saying this so that what you learn is going to be productive for you. And if what you're choosing to take away is that you're not dateable, it's not going to be helpful in getting unstuck. We have control over how we view things. And since that's the case, why not choose something that's going to be productive if you want a relationship, right? And the fourth reflection I have kind of relates to this is reflecting on how you've changed in the last year or two when it comes to dating, what you're looking for, and maybe your confidence. Whenever I feel stuck in something, I like to pause and look back and notice the way I've changed, improved, and grown. It makes me feel like I'm actually doing something. It makes me feel like, wow, like even though I'm not at my goal yet, I am closer because I've picked up these skills. I've had these experiences. I've learned these things about myself. And you realize that you're not actually as stuck as you feel. You are still moving forward towards something, even if you're not there yet. Like, what actions are you taking today in your dating life that a year ago you were too scared to do? What is the version of you doing the version of you a year ago would be in awe of? Think about that. So, I hope that kind of helps you not feel as stuck as you think, because you're not as stuck as you think. So, you might not be ready to go into problem solving mode yet. You might still be in the validating your emotions phase of this, and that's fine. But I want to point out some ways that we can problem solve and troubleshoot feeling stuck in your dating life. So the first one is reflecting on if there's something you need to address or let go of that's holding you back. So this is about getting real with yourself. What is something you know you need to work on that you've been avoiding? For me, it was my lack of communication skills. I thought I was an amazing communicator until I realized that I was only good at communicating when someone was coming to me with an issue. I wasn't good at voicing my own concerns or needs or expectations or anything. I was only good at being on the receiving end and listening and asking questions. But when it came to me actually saying what I wanted and needed, I couldn't do it. And I had to get real with myself at a certain point in my dating life to be like, okay, if I want to get into a secure relationship, I need to work on this. I need to practice this. And it's going to feel uncomfortable and hard and weird, but I knew it was holding me back. So think about it what it is for you. It could be that you're dating for validation, right? You're dating to be chosen. It could be a self worth thing, like you don't feel like you're worthy of the relationship you want for some reason and you need to address this. Um, it could be a whole bunch of things. I mean, only you know, maybe only you and your therapist know. But I would say one way to get unstuck is to pick one thing. You don't have to overhaul, that doesn't work. Pick one thing that you want to work on to maybe remove that obstacle. Another way to get unstuck is to go back to what you want and making sure you're really clear on that, right? When you feel stuck, this is a good time to double down on your non negotiables and your needs and think about what you're looking for again and if your actions are aligning with that. Like, do you know what you're looking for or are you just looking for someone? And I understand when you're frustrated and you're kind of ready to throw in the towel, you're like, I'll just take anyone who's emotionally available. There's more to it than that. Like, yes, you want someone who's emotionally available, but there's like other things involved in, that you're going to need in a partner for it to work out long term. So go back to your needs, double down, make sure you're very clear on what you need, and that can help you kind of refocus on that and know what to do to move forward. For example, if you need someone who's active, are you showing up in places where active people go? Like, are you going to pickleball? Are you joining run clubs and hiking groups? Are you at the gym trying to make connections? That's what I mean by this. Like, are you clear on what you want and do your actions align with that? Another approach to getting unstuck here is maybe thinking about if it's time to shake things up. And what I mean by shake things up is like do something different. And that could be a dating break. Like taking breaks can be really helpful if you're feeling stuck, even though I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I think dating when you're jaded, cynical, burnt out, and bringing that energy to your dates is not going to help you. It comes through, and I'm sure you've been on the receiving end of that on some of your dates. Like you can tell when the person across from you is not feeling dating in general, and they're just kind of like, "Ugh, I've had this first date conversation 80 million times, and I'm so over it." Like you don't want to bring that energy to your dates, so having a break can be very positive overall. My suggestion for taking dating breaks without feeling the pressure to get back into it is to set a time limit. Like, okay, I'm going to delete the apps and not go on any dates until Memorial Day weekend. Like, okay, cool. Give yourself a solid 4 to 6 weeks at least. Some people say longer. I think 6 weeks is fine. But maybe if you feel really down in the dumps at your dating life, you can take a longer break. But I think setting that time limit will alleviate the anxiety and pressure to get back into it. Another shake up idea is shifting your focus to something else in your life that brings you joy. This isn't really taking a dating break, but it's more like, can you just refocus your energy into the things that fill your cup, like your hobbies, friends, family, self care, whatever it is? Maybe you want to start a new workout routine like Pilates. Maybe you want to like take a dance class, like just something different to pour your energy into to bring some like positivity into your life. You don't have to quit dating to do that, but it could be just like if you're obsessively thinking about dating and spending all of your time swiping and feeling horrible, it could just be better to shift your energy, thoughts, and focus to something else and work on being aware of how much time you're actually spending on thinking about dating, thinking about your love life and the void and all these things. And how can you just shift your energy to something that's more positive? And then the last little tidbit here I have is like, what advice would you give to a friend in your situation? And can you give that advice to yourself? Like, if your friend was like, hey, I am feeling so defeated in my dating life, I just don't know what to do. What would you say? And can you do that? I think that's sometimes a good way to find the next step if what I'm saying isn't resonating. Like sometimes it can come from within, right? It's already, the answer is probably already within you somewhere. So maybe that's a good way to kind of get it out. That's what's in my toolbox for you today. I hope that helps. I hope something was useful. I hope you try something. And then another reminder I want to give you on this is that, and this is going to be hard to hear, okay? You're not going to like hearing this. This is not a fun reminder, but like, if you feel like you've been doing all the things and you're still single and you're stuck and you're like, what the hell? Where's my person? You just haven't met the right person at the right time yet. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong. This is just a reality of dating. And look, we all know there's no such thing as the one, as in one person out of the billions of people on this planet who's meant to be your forever person. I believe there's a lot of people out there who would be great for you. And you probably have lots of soulmates out there. And some of them are probably platonic. Some of them might even be in your family. Like soulmates are not just romantic. I think that if you keep your heart open and keep putting yourself out there, you will eventually meet someone. And it's very possible that the next person you're going to date is in a relationship right now, or they're just not out there dating. They're not available for some reason. I'm telling you, there is a lid for every pot and a butt for every seat. And if you ask me, there are plenty of lids and pots and butts and seats to go around. You're looking for something specific. It's never going to be immediate. I also want to talk about comparisonitis because that's another element that plays into feeling stuck because you're looking at everyone else on social media, maybe your friends, your family, and you're seeing other people in relationships and you're like, when is it my turn? And that's a real factor here that I want to acknowledge. And if you're feeling like you can't stop looking at other people's lives and comparing your life to their life, like I think that's a very normal human thing we do. I do it with business. I mean, gosh, I've had to like mute people's stories and unfollow people that I kept comparing myself to. And I suggest that you do the same thing. You can, especially on social media, you can mute certain people. You don't have to unfollow. You can like notice your triggers and actually do something to make sure you're not feeling triggered by them. That doesn't mean getting over it. It means like literally just removing the trigger from your life. So if you are scrolling on social media and you're feeling down because you just keep scrolling past people on their honeymoon and like having babies or whatever it is, maybe it's time to take a social media break. Maybe it's time to mute those people. Maybe it's time to fill your feed with badass single people doing awesome things. Because it's really hard to remember that you have to trust your timing and it's not a race and not everything is in your control and all the things we're talking about when all you're seeing is just people who have what you want. And I also want to remind you that the people you see on social media, you only see what they want you to see. And you don't ever, even if you're not on social media, like if you think someone has a perfect relationship, they probably don't. No relationship is perfect. And you never really know what's going on behind closed doors. So just remember, like when your comparisonitis is very loud, just remind yourself that you don't know the full story and that just because someone else has the thing you want doesn't mean you're never going to get it. It doesn't mean they're better than you. It's all very arbitrary and random. And the last thing I want to talk about before we jump into the questions you submitted about this on Instagram is what to do when you feel like you're the problem. Because again, we come back to this idea of like, I'm doing all the things. What if it's me? What if I'm just undateable? What if I just suck? Like if you feel that way, I'm sending you a hug. I hate that you feel that way. And I'm also going to be brutally honest. And I need to hear this too. Nothing is wrong with you on a fundamental level. You are human. You're doing great. You're doing your best. But there may be things in your dating life that you could be doing better. Maybe you are overly picky and judgmental. Or maybe you're on the other side of the spectrum where you're too accepting and lenient. Maybe you are coming on way too strong. Or maybe you are too guarded and super closed off. Maybe your anxiety or your avoidance or whatever attachment style you have is getting in the way. The good news is that you don't have to fully get over that or fully become perfect, which is not a thing, to get into a relationship. You don't have to be fully healed to get into a relationship. Fully healed isn't a thing. But I think that being aware and continuing the work does help. That is something we can control. And I want you to take a beat here because there's two types of people out there. I think there are two types of people who could be listening to this. On one side, we have the person who goes all in on working on themselves all the time, like therapy, coaching, books, courses, all the things all the time. And if that's you, I'm encouraging you to pull back and live your life because I mean, I'm that person. And I've had to actively step back from working on myself to enjoy my life. Like, there's a max, there's a limit to how much work you can do on yourself at a given time. And if you're doing all this work on yourself, you have to kind of let your life play out so you can see that the work is working. Otherwise, you're never really going to know if it's working, if that makes sense. And the other type of person is the person who's avoiding the work and blaming everyone else for what happens in their dating lives instead of actually facing the thing head on. And if that's you, hey, like that's okay. It can be overwhelming to know where to start or pick something to work on or even know what to work on. So I recommend picking up some relationship books, going to therapy, finding a coach, just getting started in one small way. Maybe it's just journaling, right? Whatever it is. And actually, I think where I would want you to start is to figure out what you're avoiding if you don't know what that is. I think that's the first step is the awareness, and then you can figure out how you want to address it. And just to wrap this up, again, you are not fundamentally undateable. You are not. You are very dateable and desirable. But there may be something that you can address to get out of your own way in your dating life. And also just remember that these things like your attachment style and your past wounds or whatever it is that's holding you back, they don't define you. You are doing great despite being stuck. Okay, the first question I have here about feeling stuck and getting unstuck is I'm hardly getting any matches on the dating apps and conversations keep leading nowhere. I mean, this is super relatable. I think it's interesting the word nowhere. I think conversations leading to not a date is not nowhere. Like it's just a no. That person, whatever, they're not available, they're not interested, whatever it is. You don't ever have to interact with them again and you could just be like, "Okay, didn't work out with that person." I don't think that's nowhere. You know what I mean? And I think that if you're hardly getting any matches and you keep having conversations that lead nowhere, the first thing I would do is think about when was the last time I updated my profile. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but if you haven't updated your profile in like a month and you're not getting any matches, it is time to swap out some pictures, update some prompts, make some changes. That is something in your control. And you can change your dating app profile as often as you want until you're getting matches, right? Obviously, don't lie, don't put pictures that aren't accurate or anything, but you can mix it up until you're getting traction, which means like likes, attention, messages, all that stuff. So I would say that's the first thing I would do. Then also, I remember that dating apps aren't the end all be all. Make sure you're going to in person events. Make sure you're going out with your friends, you're saying yes to events and focusing on in person interactions in addition to using dating apps. And in terms of conversations that lead nowhere, I mean, again, like we have to do dating app math here. For every 10 matches, maybe one will turn into a date. And if you need to change your strategy a little bit, I don't know what you're doing, the person who asked this question, but if you keep having dating app conversations that aren't leading to dates, it could be that you're letting them go on too long before suggesting a date. And I think for me, the rule of thumb is have a quick back and forth, see if they can carry a conversation, see if they ask you a question. If you enjoyed the brief interaction, tell them you want to meet and just say, "Hey, like I want to meet you. Like when can we have a date or why don't we just keep this conversation going over coffee?" And that will get you on a lot more dates rather than just letting that conversation drag out and fizzle out. All right, another question I have here is how do I stay hopeful after so many disappointments and false starts, especially since I'm getting older? And yeah, this is so tough. And I want to kind of hark back to what I was saying earlier about interpreting your quote false starts differently and trying to take the lessons out of them rather than only seeing them as failures. I really don't think that false starts are failures because you're going to learn something every step of the way. And if you're dating intentionally, every time that you meet someone new, you are practicing your skills, your communication skills, your dating skills, your social skills. So even if it doesn't pan out, you're still getting something out of it. You're getting better. You know, that's what I would view the false starts as. It's just like experience so that you're getting better. So by the time you do meet the right person, you will be at the top of your game. And again, in terms of getting older, I mean, making peace with the timeline, making peace with the fact that your life isn't going to pan out the exact way you want it to. I think that's true for every person listening. There are just things we wanted to happen on a certain timeline that didn't. And that is just kind of the experience of life. Like we have things we want and goals and desires, and we hope that they happen by a certain point in life, and then they just don't. And then you have to kind of make peace with that. So I guess I'm trying to say you're not alone with this. And I think trusting your timing is better than feeling like you're falling behind. Another question I got on this: why is it hard to find what I'm looking for? It's hard to find what you're looking for because you're looking for something specific. It's like you're looking for that one thing. And that one thing, yet, like I said, does exist in multiple people, but it's still good. Like there's still a lot of people in the world. Like you've met a tiny, tiny fraction of the people who are walking on this earth. So it is hard to find what you're looking for. It's also the timing. Like it's very possible you find, I don't believe in right person, wrong time. That's just, wrong person, wrong time. But like being in the right place at the right time to meet your person is part of it. Like I think about with my husband, I only matched with him because I was coming off of something that ended after like a month or so, and I was devastated, but I was on the apps and I matched with him. Like that is the only reason we crossed paths at that moment in time. I don't think that we would have crossed paths any other moment in time. It's really just part of it is just luck. Part of it is truly just luck, and I hate saying that because it's like that is not in our control, but that's part of why it's so hard to find what you're looking for. It's like literally being in the right place at the right time, and the fact that you're looking for something specific, which is good. You don't want to take just anyone. You're looking for someone who will meet your needs, someone who wants the same thing as you. And that's a very specific type of person. I also want to point out the privilege we have in getting to choose. In 2025 in America and many other countries, we get to choose our partner. Hundreds of years ago, that wasn't the case. Not even that long ago, that wasn't the case. So I think we have to remember we have the privilege that we get to date, we get to choose. Yes, it's hard, but I'd prefer this than the alternative, right? I don't know. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. Let me know what you think about that. All right, those are the questions I'm answering today. I don't want to repeat myself too much. A lot of the questions kind of had to do with things I already discussed. So thank you for submitting them. And thanks again for reaching out, getting in touch, letting me know your thoughts. I hope that this helped you feel a little bit better about your situation if you feel stuck. I hope this gave you a little bit of direction and what to focus on and what to do if you're feeling stuck. And again, I'm here for you. I'm rooting for you. And I want to thank you for listening. Thanks for trusting me. I would love it if you share this episode with someone who's navigating dating and might need a little confidence boost or some tough love. And if any of these episodes have helped you in your journey, you can help other daters find the show by leaving a review wherever you're listening, by rating the show, by following, subscribing, sharing, all the things. I appreciate all of it. Once again, I'm Talia. This has been Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you next time.